Good evening. Welcome to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio, 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Also streaming from the KCAA Radio.com website and MBRradio.us. We got to bless the show before we get started. Let's go. When I was in my mother's womb, I had a calling on my life to do something in the glory of God and marry it like a wife. Commit myself to his word and never be led astray. And when it's all over, when he comes, I'll be glad to see that day in the morning time. KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, streaming at the KCAA Radio.com website. The station that leaves no listener behind. It is nice to be back on Tuesdays. Yes, I am returning to KCAA on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Coming from Sunday nights. Nothing wrong with Sunday night. Definitely enjoyed Sunday night for those 5 years or so. But we're back on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. So thank you for those who are tuning, listening in. I hope you find something in these conversations that maybe alter your perception or alter your conversations about some of these life conversations that we have here. We do play music and talk, so you might hear a couple of clips of some 70s, 80s, 90s, or today's hits that are a lot of our soundtrack to life. And so that is one of my main conversations, music, marks, place, and time, the soundtrack to life. But we are a variety show, so if you want to be a guest, hit me up at Farron Dozier on all your platforms, social media, and let's have a conversation. But we talk about everything on the planet. There's nothing left off the table. Of course, you can't use foul language because we have FCC laws here. But other than that, we are open to discussions for things that are important, not just to us, but to you as well in the community. Where do I want to start? Well, I'm not here by myself tonight, so if you are streaming online, my guest is here, and we are going to have some conversation. He's no stranger, but Lewis is here, and we're going to have some discussions about what he's up to currently, and also talk about some military topics. So the Trench Talk segment will be in play tonight as well. So what do you want to say? Just say hello to the people, man.
Hi, my name's Luis Reyna. For those of you who are just tuning in, I've been here a couple times now.
Yeah.
I always appreciate coming onto the show. Thank you again. A little bit about me. Been a longtime resident here at the Inland Empire, born and raised here in San Bernardino. It's been my home for a long, long time. But recently, over the last year, my new home is in Hemet.
Yeah.
I moved to Hemet, still in the Inland Empire, just at the very, very outskirts, at the end of the Inland Empire.
Yeah,
but we're
still there.
Still there. Yes.
Cool, man. Thank you again. Thanks for accepting the invitation and coming to have these discussions with us tonight. I want to touch on this past weekend. First, shout out to the Inland Empire Hounds. I am one of the co-owners of the IA Hounds, and we actually beat the San Diego Suns 119 to 110
Nice.
with 8 players. So we held it down. Shouts out to Coach LG and the players of the Inland Empire Hounds. We are now 9-4, working our way to Las Vegas this coming Sunday to play the Royals. This will be our first game for the season with the Royals. We ended 2-1 against the Suns. They are an excellent team. They give us a hard time every year, and the Royals no different. We got a lot of good teams in the West down here, and so we don't take those games lightly at all.
Right.
In our competition of chasing on the road to Atlanta for the ABA championship this year. So shouts out to the team. They played very well, the 8 players that were there, and kept it together and kind of broke down the little 17-point lead, but ended up again winning by 19 points at the end. So definitely appreciate that. Always exciting. That platform, I picked up the Hounds because there are a lot of things as veterans that we talk about, but the veteran conversation is no different than what it is to be a human being. Our identity crisis, the sense of belonging, those things are so important. And if we don't realize that and start to not just do the work, but be the work around those topics, we know that veteran suicide is at a rate of 1 every 65 minutes. And then we see the arising of the youth and them completing their lives and just things like that are going on in the world. So those are my whys of why we purchased those ABA basketball teams as a platform to bring this awareness. And then Sunday, I was able to deliver a message at church. I'm the youth speaker at the New Earth Christian Church, my cousin's church online. And I just want to drop this one piece of the message that I felt was the most important part of that is, grief. None of us escape that conversation around grief. We lose loved ones, we lose animals. And for myself, I was in, a good 6 years of grief with my dad's passing in 2019. But the work that I've done to heal in that grief conversation, what I learned was I had been resisting my dad's passing. Like, we didn't always have a good relationship, so there would be, maybe months that we didn't talk, right? But even after we reconciled our relationship in 2010, 2011, there was times that we still didn't talk all the time. Go ahead.
And you're right about that. A lot of people have that misconception. You make up a relationship, especially with a parent, right? A distant parent, and you think, wow, now we're gonna talk every day. Now we're gonna go out to lunch every day.
Right.
And sometimes, life gets in the way.
Yes.
Life gets in the way for you. Life gets in the way for your parent, and that. So I wouldn't put that expectation, to anybody. That things will change dramatically.
Right.
Sometimes things continue the same way. It's just now the feelings are different.
Exactly. And that's beautiful you say that, because at the end of the day, the honor your father and mother is not that I love or like them every day. It's how I think about them in my heart, right? And that's the healing that me and my dad experienced together. And, when he passed away, when he transitioned, like I had did my work, like, so I articulated, like, I was feeding my soul. Right, my mental health was kind of getting stable. I was advocating. I was at radio, TV broadcasting school. Like, I was doing my thing, and then he passes away, and then that was like another abrupt to my life. Like, oh my God, I got to deal with this. And I remember out of my mouth saying that I was done. My dad passed, and I'm done. And I can articulate, looking back in these last 6 years, that I resisted his passing. Like, I knew he wasn't here anymore, but it was like there was still that grief, those layers of grief. And so last month in one of my personal development conversations, the conversation was, what are you resisting in life? And so I had took that course because I was looking at my peer age decision. I knew that I had made a decision at 14 that I'm not going to be vulnerable and I have to defend myself in relationships. And at 40, I discovered that, and then I've been working on that, bits and pieces. But this course, I actually focused more on looking at what is it about that peer age decision that I made in that breakup with that girl, of that I have to defend myself in relationships and I'm not going to be vulnerable to a woman ever again. But it just didn't affect women. It affected everybody in my life at that age. So what I saw at 55 was I was resisting not being vulnerable, but I also was resisting my dad's passing. I was resisting loss in relationships. I was resisting not being wanted. I was resisting not being loved. And so the conversation was, can you choose life the way it is and the way it isn't? A lot of times we hear people say, oh, that's just the way it is. That's just the way life is. No, guess what? That's just the way life is, and that's just the way life isn't. So sometimes you have to figure out what it isn't to figure out what it is. And when I was able to sit and go through the principles and the distinctions and listen and apply those to my life in those areas that I've been resisting, I realized that I now have grief. It doesn't have me. I have not being wanted, and it doesn't have me. I could choose it.
Right, you have the choice.
I have the choice now. So when I experience holding on to it, and when I experienced holding on to it, I felt like, people say you to be whole and complete. Like, I felt that. Like, I experienced in my mind, in my body, like a little, like I have that. It doesn't have me anymore, and now I could choose to let it go, or I could hold on to it. Now, if I want to hold on to grief the way it is and the way it isn't, I know what I want to get. How I've been feeling the last 6 years. Right. How I've been feeling about not being vulnerable for 41 years. If I hold on to that, but the space and the peace that I got, that I could let that go, and be okay. I can choose life the way it is and the way it isn't. And the last bit of that I want to share with people in this healing journey, you may have heard there's conversation about the body keeps the score. Well, I can tell you, I've experienced, when I feel that transformation in my life, my body releases the anxiety. So when I went through that conversation, I chose all those categories the way they were and the way they wasn't. Not only did I experience a space of being whole and complete, but the anxiety popped up, right? And for me, my anxiety was in my legs. So if I had anxiety attacks, I felt like I couldn't walk, cripple. So I would have to go sleep it off, maybe an hour or 12 hours, however long it took for that anxiety to go away, I'd have to sleep it off. But when I discovered it, I felt it in my legs, and then it kind of just went away. So I went to sleep, and I woke up, and my whole body was like zzz, like anxious. And I'm like, man, I just waking up in the morning, like, why do I feel like this? I remember the class that night before. So I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is me feeling that anxiety of what I discovered deep in my heart, that I'm free to be vulnerable now. And my body's like, no, those sensations. Sure. And all of a sudden I just remembered what I discovered. I meditated on the word. I started just being okay with my body and just letting it pass. And at some point of that day, it disappeared. And I experienced just being like, it's like the room brightened up, like my whole life just opened up. And I'm like, man, I know for me that was a core decision. In our education, we teach that 3 major decisions we make as a child. One with your dad, one with your mom, and your peer age. And by the time you make that one with your peer age, if you're not in some kind of a club or have a sense of belonging somewhere, then we get lost. Yeah. And a lot of times that's 12, 13, that transition age for some of us who are emotional. So just to be at peace with that, so I delivered that message at church with Youth Sunday, and I had these sunglasses on because I represented the sunglasses when my perception changed. And then I picked up a spoon, a pink spoon, and I started just holding it as I was talking. And I said that, people saw me with sunglasses and a pink spoon, but all these years I just saw Farron. I didn't know I had sunglasses on. I didn't know I was holding a spoon. But I felt the pain every time that spoon hit my face. But that's just the way I thought it was. And so I was able to, God allowed me to deliver that message to the youth and their parents, man. And from what I understand, it definitely landed. They liked the illustration of me putting on the sunglasses and talking through the experience of it, and then taking those sunglasses off. Yeah. And then now letting that spoon go, that I'm free. Yeah. And the biggest part of that was, of course, using God's word. After I got it from my soul, I had to feed my spirit, and I actually found it in James chapter 5:18, where confess your faults to one another and pray for one another. And I could see that the world has so many opinions about men being vulnerable, and you can't share your emotions, and you can't do all this stuff. Yeah. But the word says that's where your strength is. So now, do I want to do what the world says, or do I want to have my strength in the word? Right. And so I chose my strength in the word, and the word has truly, set me free from that. And I'm able to just, I'm at peace. I'm at peace. Anything you hear that you...
all I hear is that, God's amazing. Yes. And the work that he does, truly.
Yes. Truly. Yes. So thank you. Thank you for those that are listening. FarronD.com if you want more information about what I'm up to in the community. We're going to play one of our public service announcements. This is brought to you by WDC on SCT.org. I am a sickle cell trait advocate. You'll hear some of this in the PSAs, and I'll come back and drop some of that knowledge on you. This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Shout us out. What's the count? Do you remember studying sickle cell in biology class? What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Prevention is here to bring you awareness, education, and prevention conversations around the risk factors of this inherited gene. Visit WDCONSCT.org. Zetovia salve, made from natural and organic ingredients, good for inflammation, poor circulation, hemorrhoids, yeast infection, lip sores, dry coughs, eye pain, minor cuts and bruises, and ready to purchase at botanicaherbalco.com. 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 Hey, I'm Sergeant First Class Farron Dozier. I'm here at the military base, and I have the sickle cell trait. Now, why I got involved is I experienced what they call sickle cell trait exertion. And I was doing the Army physical fitness test, the 2-mile run, and when I got done, I collapsed. A lot of soldiers and athletes have been dying at football fields and running track, and the family members have no idea that they have the sickle cell trait gene or that it's a trigger. So my purpose is to mobilize the community so we can find out what's in your genes. How will life be if we could prevent another child from being born with sickle cell trait or disease? And if a child was born with the trait or disease, that the family members would have the education, awareness, and resources in every city that they lived in. So tune into our webinar series and find out what's the count.
What's it count? What's it count? What's it count?
All right, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show on KCAA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, streaming at the KCAA Radio.com website. The station leaves no listener behind. Oh, by the way, if you are in your car and you got to get out of it, grab your device, type in KCARadio.com, click listen live or watch live, or go download the app. Yes, we have an app for the station here so that you can listen to all of my teammates' podcasts here. What do you say, Monday through Monday or Monday through Sunday? There's shows all times of the night, all days of the week. You can find something to listen to here on KCARadio.com. I want to just drop this little bit of the song right here. I'm a 70s baby. I grew up with the classic rock from my mom. Shouts out to my moms. I remember being like 5, 6 years old, 8 years old. Can't go outside till you vacuum and water the plants and wash the dishes.
Yep.
This is the 70s right here.
In the evening on a Friday night, little light is shining through the window, lets me know everything's alright.
Reminds me of my dad too. My dad would pick me up and go hang out with him. He had a Volkswagen Bug, and then he had a Cougar, powder blue Cougar with a vinyl top on it, man.
Wow.
Shouts out to my pops, man. You like the 70s music?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
classics,
I do.
right?
Yeah. Can't beat the
Classics.
classics.
Classics, man. Again, welcome back to the Farron Dozier Show, KCA Radio. Man, how do you want to start this conversation? There's so much going on in the world today. So what do you want to drop on the listeners here
Well,
in the Inland Empire area?
So, given everything that's going on, I mean, at the national level, at the international level, I mean, globally, there's just so much going on, and I feel that, you know, over the years, we have a need for better representation.
Yeah.
You know, in all forms of government. You know, I think it's time for younger generations to start stepping up and answering the call. And you know, with that being said,
But let's go here. Let's dance right there for a second,
All
right?
right,
Because
all right.
I agree with you. I'm learning as people, we tolerate stuff.
we do.
Right? We watch it on TV, we watch it on social media, we watch the 60-second clip, we
Yeah.
form our opinion, we shout it out on and sometimes it breaks up family discussions and friendships break up, and then you turn it off and then you wait till the next thing that pops up.
Yeah.
And then it's another thing, and then we tolerate that, and then in my mind I'm like, you know, at what point do we stop tolerating conversations, right? And actually take action. And I could relate to that as far as my sickle cell trait, right? I collapsed and almost died from that sickle cell trait conversation. I could have easily, people say you could have easily took that as a defeat and just said, woe is me, and be done with it, or find a way to bring that conversation forward and educate people and have discussions about that to bring a level of change, whether it's awareness, education, or preventive measures. And so in this whole political world that we live in today, especially, it just seems that the opinions of the conversations are drowning out what actually needs to be addressed, right? And I believe that it's nothing wrong to have an opinion, but when you have an opinion up against another human being, that's where the waters get muddy, because now I'm talking to you like you're a chair, and you can't be no other way. But your brain is malleable. You can learn. You can grow. You can change your mind. You can believe in what you want to believe. That's not for me to judge you by. But I believe our opinions get in the way. And so, as you mentioned, for our generation, my grandson who's 6, for their generations, because I believe that the president's decisions in their terms, they're 30, 40, 50 years lasting.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So the decisions that Obama and Clinton, those things are still around.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then a new president comes in, and he adds his flavor to it, and now you have all this. So, as you said, our next generation, I'm 55. Right. So
Yeah.
I know how important it is, especially the work that I've done to heal. I can see how important these conversations are and how they can get off track and how our opinions get in the way. What do you want to say about that next generation, or your views of tolerating it and or taking some kind of action?
You know, history serves as a lesson for us to learn from, to not repeat the mistakes of the past. You know, our country, you know, barely 200 years old. You know, it's still a baby country.
Yes.
You know, comparatively,
Yeah.
and we're at risk of a total collapse from within. There's been mismanagement from the local level, the state level, to the federal level, to the international level. and you know, enough is enough.
Yeah.
And we need better people to answer the call, to stand up, you know, people that have a backbone, people that are going to hold politicians accountable, people that are going to hold you know, businessmen accountable, corporations accountable. You know, we need to start holding more accountability instead of continuing these, you know, behind closed room deals, you know, to try and hide the problem, or, you know, keep the general public from knowing when everything's busting at the seams. I mean, we see it.
And they know
blatant.
And they know.
And they
and
know it.
and the community knows it.
You know, they know that they can't hold back these issues for much longer.
Yeah.
You know, we live in a day where information is available.
my
The
gosh.
moment something happens, you know, they can't censor stuff anymore. They can't manipulate. You know, as much as they try to manipulate the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and they believe it, which is even more dangerous. You know,
Yeah.
they believe their own lies. But it's there, and all people have to do is just go online and look at it. Of course, take everything with a grain of salt.
Yes.
Do your due diligence. You know, trust but verify. Always verify your sources. But you know, it's a very, very important year. You know, this year, with the elections going on, you know, people need to come out and vote. Our communities are being attacked. Our communities are being divided. You know, as someone who grew up in the 90s, who grew up at the height of the racial wars, you know, which were horrible back then. But as students going through the public education system, you know, it took us as high school students to organize, to get the adults to listen.
Exactly.
And you know, thankfully we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see, you know, this problem. The kids are fed up.
Yes.
And once the high school kids are fed up, you know, then we're really going to start to see action, because you know, kids not going to school affects a lot of things. You know, let alone you're hurting people where it really hurts, which is their pocketbook.
Exactly.
You know, so with all that being said, you know, the issues that affect our daily lives, with everything going on, with our current political climate, being a longtime resident here in the Inland Empire, and just seeing the effects of mismanagement, you know, on my local communities, you know, I've decided to step up and answer the call.
Yeah.
Which is why I've decided to run for a brand new redrawn congressional district in my area, the 48th congressional district. I currently live in Hemet, but that covers, you know, from Palm Springs, Idlewild, Hemet, Nuevo, Winchester, Temecula, down to Escondido, down, you know, to areas of Julian, all the way down to the border, almost down in the Tecate region of our Southern California border. And so, it's a very, very huge area, a lot of farmland. There is a naval base also within the district. So, it's an area that is definitely affected by everything going on nationally.
Yes, for
We have
sure.
veterans, we have farmers, we have farm workers, we have,
That's
every
beautiful.
demographic in population that you can think of that live within the district. And so, these issues affect everybody. At the end of the day, we all have to live next to each other.
Yes.
We all have to go to school together. We all have to work together. We all shop together.
Yes.
And it's better when we all get along and we can all work cohesively than, is the shade of their skin too dark?
Yeah.
We start getting into those things, and it's never a good thing for anybody involved.
Can we get a round of applause for just the courage that it takes to no longer tolerate? I mean, man, oh man, oh man. I applaud you because I don't have that level of courage, but I do understand, and I can relate to at some point, in a spiritual conversation, I've heard that sometimes it takes a person to be so angry that you want to make that change. And there's a difference between tolerating it and being angry and having that conversation go after it.
Yeah.
So, I appreciate you for...
Thank
What
you.
was that? What was that? Was it the military background? What was the confidence, courage
honestly
come from?
A little bit of everything. I've always been politically involved since I was in high school. I started off as an intern for, at the time, State Assemblyman Joe Baca Jr.
Okay.
From there, I went on to be the first high school congressional intern in the area under, at the time, Congressman Joe Baca. Who was a great mentor, his entire family,
Yeah.
Great people, great mentors.
Yeah, they are.
And it just grew from there. From there, I went on to volunteer on many different campaigns and just getting to
Wow.
know and understand
Yeah.
the intricacies of policy and politics and what it takes to run and what it takes to really make a difference in the community, and getting
Yeah.
to know the key players, from your community college boards to your local school boards, to your chamber of commerce, getting to know who
Yeah.
the business people are in your area. So I've always been involved in politics in what I consider the behind closed door scenes.
Yeah.
And on the opposite side, as a young student activist, I've been involved with Pico, California, which was people in community organizing. So I've always been
Okay.
in that community organizing
Yeah.
realm. I was a founding member of ICUC, which is the Inland Congregations United for Change, which is still going strong here in the Inland Empire. Congrats to them. So I've been a part of organizations that do that groundwork. We organized walkouts when I was in high school. I was a part of that. So I've always had the passion for serving, for standing up for the little guy.
Yeah.
When I joined the medical field, again, just because of my passion for giving back to those that have served us, to the seniors in the community, to the disabled.
Yeah.
So I've always had that heart of service, and then joining the military, gaining that backbone from the military,
Oh,
gaining
yeah.
that strength and the courage, and
For sure.
and mostly the belief in myself.
Yeah.
Because as I've touched in one of the other times that I was here, the military was very, very influential in me being able to break the mental strongholds that I had built for myself.
For sure.
That were keeping me weak, keeping me down, keeping me
sure.
humble. And so it's been a culmination of all that. My upbringing here in the Inland Empire, born to immigrant parents, having to go to school, having to grow, being the oldest in my siblings,
Yeah.
Having to grow up way beyond my years.
Of course.
Because especially for those of us that were first generation.
Exactly.
You go to school, you learn English, and then you come home and you teach the same
everything.
English to your parents, and so there's that duality. And so
Yeah,
having to
yeah.
grow up and just
And some people take that as a
struggling and-
negative. Some people take that as a
Right, right.
especially at that age. It doesn't like I'm.
Oh yeah, even from experience, like I've had to work on my resentment from my parents, because it's like,
Right.
well, I didn't get to enjoy a childhood.
Exactly.
But then I wouldn't be the professional that I am now. So it's just one of those things. Like yes, I could have enjoyed maybe a little bit more childhood freedom, but
exactly.
yeah,
But I had to stop saying that as well. Like I wish I had this information as earlier, but then I wouldn't be who I am today to go back and be able to articulate and teach this.
Right.
So I had to.
Right.
I'm starting to stop saying that as well. Like no, I got it when I needed it, and here we are today.
Yeah.
Man, oh man, oh man.
Yeah. So it's a combination of all that: the family support, the friend support, the community support, and just the timing's right. And when it comes to opportunities, from to quote a mentor of mine, Mr. Noriega, he said there are two types of people when it comes to opportunities.
Okay.
And so there's the people that are waiting on the opportunity, which are like people that are sitting at a train station and when the train's already long gone.
Yeah.
And those are the people that are just sitting around waiting for an opportunity.
Yeah.
And then there are people that are driving the train, the people that saw an opportunity, jumped on it, and now they're the ones in charge of the train driving that opportunity.
Yes.
You can't just sit around and wait for it. And this opportunity was here. It is scary. It's a big step. It's a huge step.
Yeah.
It puts a target on my back, puts a target on my family's back. But someone has to do it. And someone in our generation needs to step up and say enough is enough. We have to leave a better planet for our kids. We have to leave a better government for people to live in. We live in a democratic republic. We're supposed to be the beacon of hope to the world of what free people look like, of what an unoppressive government looks like.
Exactly.
And right now we're totally showing the opposite. So that's part of the motivation as to why I decided to run.
My analogy to what you said is in the basketball world or sports world, where are you living your life from, ladies and gentlemen? Are you living your life in the stands? Are you watching the game of life go by, saying what you wish I would have, if that was me, I would have did this. If I was me, I would have, why did he shoot that? I would have did this. Or you living your life on the bench, waiting for the coach to put you in the game, right? That you've trained and developed and practiced all week, all year, waiting for that person to put you in the game of life. Or are you living your life on the court, where you're taking the shot, calling the plays, and being engaged in the game, and you are on the court now. Yeah. You are on the court.
Oh, yeah.
I like how I don't want to dwell here, but I like how you said the target. I know in our black culture, when people go into politics, there's always, they try to pull up a tweet from 15 years ago, or they try to find something to give you that negative image. I'm not even worried about that.
Yeah.
Not even worried about that.
No, like I said, I've lived my life in service to the community, and there's just so much that needs to be done. And,
The LULAC conversation, right? How does all that tie into?
Oh, well, like I mentioned, briefly, one of the big things that LULAC as a whole would, wants to put out, especially this year, is just the importance of voting. Especially during the midterm elections. Yeah. That's when you see the least amount of voters. Everybody wants to vote in the presidential, but then nobody cares about anything else. So that's very important. Voting in those early elections, because that sets the precedence for that general election. That sets the precedence for what's going to happen in your city, what's going to happen locally in your county and in your school district. So those elections are extremely important, extremely important. Right now, the family dynamics being targeted. People are in distress. People aren't going outside. People aren't shopping. People aren't going to work. Right. Because they're afraid. And so, understanding your rights. And so we have a whole section on our lulac.org that people can go to and where they can understand their rights, understand how the process goes, what to do if you're approached by an immigrations officer or an ICE agent, things like that, resources that you can advocate for or look into. And
I think, not that I think, but I know it's important because at the heart of the issue today is that the sense of belonging is being threatened.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is
it
ultimately
It is.
we one of our parents came here for an opportunity, and to have that opportunity, and then now for it to start to be retracted, if that's even a good word to use, but the threat of the sense of belonging for me is at the core of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people, we need to allow people to restore that sense of belonging.
And what's truly sad, and this is something that, God willing, with getting elected, this will be something that I want to target within my first term, is working on legislation, because I get that, the immigrant community is under attack, but what's even worse, or what I feel is beyond evil, is the fact that we've recruited men and women from other countries to come here, to wear the uniform, to pay the ultimate sacrifice, go to war, get shot at, and then they come back home, and for one reason or another, they get deported. And so we've been, and mind you, I myself, as a guardsman, am ashamed to say that I only knew about this problem 3 years ago.
Yeah.
This has been a problem that's been going on since World War II.
Yeah.
We've had veterans that have been totally left behind. When our mission is to never leave, your brother in arms, your sister in arms behind, we're leaving them behind. Our government has completely turned our back to them. We have a group right now that are living in TJ that we're helping. But the problem is, it's not just in Mexico. We have black deported veterans. We recruit veterans from Africa. We recruit veterans from the Pacific Islands. We recruit veterans from all over the world. So it isn't just a problem with South America. It isn't just a problem with Mexico. It's a problem that affects everybody and anybody that's ever served this country.
Yes.
Thankfully, the problem now, moving forward with new recruits, the Army is being more proactive on that, because we have raised a lot of awareness. So I don't want to just say there's a lot of negative.
Right.
They are making changes. Progress is ongoing. It's slow, but it's ongoing, right? But unfortunately, these people have honored the promise to America, and we need to honor our promise to them.
For sure.
And so, I want to call for collaborating on working on legislation. That time in service should count. That time in service should have an effect, as much as we claim that it does now.
Right.
If anything, veterans should have priority for citizenship, for homelessness programs, for for food vouchers, for these are the people that have served this country so that people can enjoy the freedoms that they have today, whether it's free speech, whether it's the Fifth Amendment, to remaining silent, and everything in between. So we owe it to them.
The veterans, if you don't know, 1% of the population at any given time is serving in the military. 1%. We are 1% of the population that serves.
Yeah.
So, we're not saying that we're entitled, but that's 1% of the population.
And it's not mandatory.
Right.
In other countries, it's mandatory. You have to do it I believe, at bare minimum 3 years in certain countries. Here it's totally voluntary, and then for us to turn around and not give them what's owed, it's completely wrong. On the flip side, on that, it's unfortunate to see how funding affects the services that are, being provided to veterans. Right now, there's a huge shortage of staff with the VA, and with staff shortages, we know the problems that creates. People, the long wait times on the phone, the long wait times to schedule appointments, having appointments canceled for one reason or another, or getting an appointment but it's 6 months down the road. You run into all these problems. Not enough doctors, not enough practitioners, and so that's an ongoing problem even right now.
Yes, definitely, and we're looking to figure out how to support the VA in these areas not bash them for the lack of,
Right.
but how to bring support to these conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's about partnering with organizations that are willing to come in and provide those resources to the veterans.
Yeah.
You know, we know everybody goes to the VA for everything.
Yes.
And you know, for the most part, for medical, they're great.
Yes.
Because that's what they're there for. But when it comes to homelessness, when it comes
Yes.
to, you know, emergency food aid, things of that nature, unfortunately, the VA just doesn't have the capacity or the manpower to have those resources, or to fully dedicate themselves to those resources.
Right.
Down the road, you know, if legislation changes and the VA gets more money, God willing, those will be, you know, some of the areas that can be improved on. But in the meantime, you know, we have to look at agencies here in the Inland Empire, Riverside County in California, that are willing to come through, partner with cities, partner with your VA,
Right.
partner with your county agencies, and provide these resources, whether it's mental health, whether it's housing, food, clothing, job resources.
Yeah.
You know, all of those things are important. You know, haircuts, showers, you know, all of that.
The
Medical
basic
care.
needs
The
of what it
basic
is to be a
necessities. And-
human, the
yeah, yeah.
physiological needs that
And-
Maslow talks about.
and sometimes these veterans, because a huge population of the homeless are veterans,
Yeah.
and a lot of the times they just need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
They just need a friend.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how their lives just turn around, you know, 180 degrees from that. You know, we had recently a young lady that was referred to one of our programs.
Yes.
You know, and it was a little bit of work, but thankfully, as of today, you know, she got her voucher.
Yes.
She's staying in one of the local hotels here in the Inland Empire, and she's already got an application through for a permanent apartment.
Yeah.
And you know, so these are programs that work, that, you know, need more community investment. Funding's always going to be an issue,
Yeah.
but the politics, the local politics, has a huge impact. And this is where, again, coming out and voting for people that are invested in your community is
Yeah.
important, because as we've seen, even here in San Bernardino, even with the most recent issues with, you know, the city council wanting to eliminate the elected mayor position
Yeah,
to
I
a
saw that.
appointed mayor position, which is mind blowing. If I still lived in San Bernardino, let me tell you, I'd be running for San Bernardino. But
I don't want to dance over something you said, though. I want to make sure that people understand that the veteran that was recently getting housed was a real life interaction between he and I.
Mhm.
This is real life,
Mhm.
like knowing that she needed support, and him providing the contact information, and then providing that contact information, and then still encouraging her to pursue that contact information, and then for her to go through the differences of getting on a phone call and then blah, and then they having another resource come in play, and just having all that. Like, we watched that
Yeah.
in a few weeks.
yeah,
Like real time, man. So thank you. I don't know how that happened or what led that, but I appreciate you hearing whatever I asked you that day and providing you had a resource
yeah,
that we were actually put in on the court, and she scores.
right, yeah.
You know,
and-
with getting out, be able to get her apartment
Yeah.
after being homeless and going
Right.
through all those different.
Yeah.
As a woman veteran,
Yeah.
as a woman veteran,
Right. You know, as men, we learn to survive. You know,
Right.
we're built a little different, you know, a
Yeah.
little more resilient in those areas. And, you know, I can't imagine the anxiety, the stress, the depression that she might have gone through, you know, in that time period. But knowing now that, you know, we've been
Hey.
able to put a roof over her head,
Oh
to
my
put the lights
gosh.
on, to, you know,
Goodness, thank
to
you,
provide
God.
food and clothing, and
That's the work.
and ultimately the opportunity for a brand new life.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
yeah,
You know, we touched on some homeless things. We touched on a lot of the obstacles about the nonprofits being able to even connect.
Mhm.
What do you see as far as that, as how a conversation needs to be had for a nonprofit who says, "Hey, I got resources, I got work. I'm gonna add my part to it first to paint the picture."
Mhm.
You said it earlier. I recommend that those nonprofits get veterans involved. For a veteran to come in and connect to another veteran, the relatedness is going to be so important for these conversations to move forward.
Yeah.
Right. I was trained at 19 years old that civilians are not going to understand you.
Right.
Civilians are not going to understand you. And I'm still retired now, almost 13 years, still peeling off that layer to want to even get engaged with the community, because I'm dealing with my mind with that. They're not going to understand you, Farron. Why would you even go and have a conversation with them? Even though there's a resource there.
Right.
But if I walk in and I see a veteran who I can connect to and relate to, man, my heart might be softened enough to say, yeah, you know what, I do need that service.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's the behind the scenes work that has to be shown and taught and trained, so that when that veteran comes for that resource, that my heart is open enough, like hers was,
Yeah. Yeah.
to say, hey, you know what, yeah, provide me that information. I'm ready to take that step and see what happens. Even though I've heard so many stories of the past,
Right.
right?
Right.
And not bringing the past into the future, but allowing to say, okay, this is today. Let me see what happens today.
Yeah.
And I believe that for me is one missing piece for
Yeah.
those nonprofits, to make sure that we get veterans
it is.
in those resources.
It is, because from our shared experience, it's so much easier to connect with a veteran.
Yeah.
So when you see a veteran, you feel more at peace. You feel, okay, this is my brother in arms.
Right.
If it worked for them, if he's, vouching for this,
Yeah.
then, just based on that, not even, anything beyond that, person's professionalism or
Right.
whatever degrees they have, or no.
And it doesn't matter what era veteran either.
That's right.
Because we
That's
talked
right.
to World War II veterans
Yeah.
like this,
Yeah.
when strangers in the store or strangers on the street, when a veteran knows that you're a brother or sister at arms, it doesn't matter what skin color,
Nope.
what era, what age, there's an instant connection.
Yeah.
And that could be the difference in having that veteran, whatever they're dealing with in their life, having that heart softened to be able to get some resources and get some benefits that they need. So,
Yeah.
anything else, man? What is there anything that I missed, or
No.
let's play a PSA. This is the Farron Dozier Show on
Yes.
KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 50 AM. Check this out. You can catch me on the Military Broadcast Radio. That's right, mbradio.us, the Farron Dozier Show, the more of a military conversation on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Also, Beyond 2D, we moved from Tuesdays, the second and fourth Tuesdays, to now Wednesdays, the second and fourth Wednesday at 11 a.m., 2 p.m. East Coast. So you can find me there expressing myself in Beyond 2D, talking about different principles and conversations. We talked about being accountable and being responsible and all those. What does it look like? What's your experience of being accountable? Sometimes people think being accountable is blaming the person, and it's not. There's conversations. Sometimes we use words that are out of context, and so we discuss those topics on Beyond 2D. And then you can catch me actually tomorrow on the Farron Dozier Show. We got Dr. Dabney coming back to talk about sickle cell trait and sickle beta thalassemia and how they express themselves in the body when they're combined, when the person is living with sickle beta thalassemia. So you can catch me there, mbradio.us, the Farron Dozier Show on Wednesdays. Play this public service announcement, and we'll come back right here. Shout out, what's the count?
Hey, I'm Curtis Blow, the legendary rapper and pastor, and I support WDC on SCT, and that's What's the Count on Sickle Cell Trait Awareness. Now, it's not just sickle cell anemia that can cause complications, but the sickle cell trait can cause sudden death if the body overheats from physical exertion or high levels of stress. So it's not too late to get tested for the sickle cell trait and learn more about the silent killer. It's not just in African Americans, y'all. So follow the WDC on Twitter at WDCONSCT. That's Twitter at WDCONSCT.
Yes, that is the legendary rapper Curtis Blow. Yes, I had an opportunity to meet Curtis Blow in 2010. I was still in the military, coming out of the service, dealing with my emotional intelligence and just depression, anxiety. And he actually wrote a verse for me in my theme song of What's the Count, my sports brand. And then as I was delivering those messages with him, I asked him if he could do a PSA for me, and so that's PSA is from like 2010. Definitely appreciate him. I also want to shout out Mr. Willie C. Walker Sr. He's the CEO and director of Operation 777 Community Warehouse and Services. He has taken on my sickle cell trait conversation around the hydration piece and has provided water, smart water, for my hydration campaign. I gave out water to the basketball teams that we played, the Suns and the Inland Empire Hounds. We were using the water to provide for the games and also to now move my conversation forward about hydration. So if you want more information, wdconsct.org. You can go there for more information. If you have questions, again, at Farron Dozier on all your platforms. If you want to leave me a message or you want to ask me a question about that topic. And then lastly, we are sitting here and I have this brownie and she's on the side over here. She's not on camera, but Miss Vega has a plant-based goods. Make sure you go to Sincerely Miss Vega and check out her products. I have not tried this yet, but it is a hearted brownie, and so I will definitely be trying that. But I just want to give her a shout out. She's in the audience here, hanging out with us tonight. So appreciate you. Thank you for the brownie, ma'am, and look forward to doing some work with you. All right, we got a few more minutes, man. What do you want to end this episode with?
Well, so a little bit on, to end with my campaign a little bit now that we're getting started.
Yeah.
Nomination period closes on March 6th. So all of your official candidates, as of the 6th of March, whoever's there, that's it. Those are going to be your candidates that you can vote for.
That's it.
So definitely, if you know of a candidate out there that's trying to get signatures to get nominated, get out there, get them on the ballot. It's very important for everybody to get involved. As I mentioned, I'm running for the 48th Congressional District.
Yeah.
You can get more information on my campaign online at Reyna, REYNA, 4 progress.org. So you can definitely get some more information on there. Keep up with the campaign, reach out. If you have any questions, you want to volunteer. This is a grassroots campaign.
Yeah.
Not taking any corporate money. We're not taking any money from the war machine.
That's right.
So it's all grassroots, community-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta have it, man. Again, give them that website one more time so they can make sure they can find you at the end.
Reyna4progress.org. REYNA, 4 progress.org.
Again, this is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Again, if you want more information about what we're up to in the community, wdconsct.org for the sickle cell trait, farrond.com for all the community outreach that I'm up to, the iehounds.com if you want to get involved in the ABA. Shouts out to the Bloomington Chambers of Commerce. We have joined forces with them, and so I'm looking forward to getting back in the community. I can only do so much on my own. That's why I had to go and deal with my own self and figure out how to get back and deal with that post-COVID of, I don't want to get sick, so I'm not going to go to that event.
Right.
So now I'm good with that. Shouts out to EQ Athletics. If you want more information about the leadership, emotional intelligence, and the sports conditioning, we're here to come into the school districts and provide these services. There's not a lot of emotional conversations talked about in the school system, and so we would like to provide that service, whether it's paid or volunteer or another business wants to partner with us to cover those expenses. But we're not going to not do it because we don't have the funding. So EQ Athletics, shouts out to the Ministry of Reconciliation, Pastor Jones, I love you. Shouts out to the New Earth Christian Church, Pastor Larry. I'm about to come and join the men's rap session. Starts at 6, so I'm about an hour late, but I'm going to jump on there. Thank you, man, for your time tonight, man. I appreciate you for hanging out again.
No, I appreciate it.
This is the Farron Dozier Show on KCA Radio 106.5 FM, 1050 AM. Shout us out. What's the count?
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.